This is the situation, well, prior to the invasion of France in 1940. The Germans have just taken over Poland. They're about to invade the Low Countries and then Denmark and Norway. They're about to invade France, and Italy is neutral. They don't want to get involved. What happens is the Germans invade France and knock out the French and the British and the Belgians, etc. in northern France, and it appears that they're about to win. Mussolini sees this and thinks, well, what am I going to get out of it? Nothing, because I haven't invaded. So he quickly declares war and marches his army under Marshal Graziani into France, and they take a slither, it's not even that, a slither of French territory prior to the capitulation of the French. So the Germany takes pretty much this, and Italy takes very little. But even though Germany has taken this much, France is out of the picture, and this does two things for the Italians. One, this massive French territory down here is now neutral. It was hostile, it's now neutral. So the Italian army, which was on this side of Libya, is now free to send its units this way, because the British are still at war. And as a result, the 10th Army is now growing in strength. And Mussolini thinks, well, I've got territory here, I have territory here, maybe I can link up, maybe I can invade Britain, maybe take more territory, because the Germans, and this is the second point, the Germans are about to, invade Britain. Battle of Britain is on the way, and they're about to invade it. The British are about to surrender. I need to take as much territory as I can now, because if I take territory now, even a little bit, that'll give me more bargaining chips at the conference table when the Germans finally beat the British. So he's basically wanting to piggyback on the German success. So he tells Marshal Graziani, okay, come away from France, you're going to go down to the 10th Army and you're going to lead it into Egypt. Graziani's no fool. He knows that Italy isn't prepared for an invasion of Egypt. Not only is there not a plan, there's not even a plan. A slither of a plan, there isn't one. There isn't a plan to invade Egypt. And not only that, yes, he has 150,000 troops. The British have only got 31,000. But there's a problem. The troops that are in the 10th Army are colonial militia infantry. He's got 150,000 men in a vast colonial militia. He has no medium artillery guns. He has very few anti-tank guns. So yes, the British can only muster 31,000 men, but he has got a lot more really poor troops. Yes, there are a few elite units in there. There's a few paratroopers, but mainly he's got a militia force. Now, a few people pointed out that the Italian equipment wasn't as good as the British. That's actually a myth. The British equipment at this stage in the war was actually about the same as the Italian. But the Italians actually have more tanks. And at this stage in the war, their tanks are pretty much equal to the British. So, but Mussolini keeps ordering an invasion. He just, he's not bothered now. It's getting late in the day. He declared war in June. It's getting towards September. He doesn't care about taking territory. He just wants to hit the British hard so that when the Germans invade Britain, he will have more chips at the bargain table. So he literally tells Graziani, all I'm asking you to do is attack the British forces facing you. So there's no strategic, that was a quote, there's no strategic plan. It's just attack the British, hit them hard, and then by this point, Britain will have fallen anyway. This bit here, this little bit here, is this. This is the border of Egypt and Libya. This is Libya, this is Egypt. And Graziani's 10th Army is here. So, what is facing him? Well, since June, O'Connor's Western Desert Force has been fighting against the Italians. Now, what O'Connor has he doesn't have a big force, but what he does have is the 7th Armoured Division. And the 7th Armoured Division is, well, it's not fully equipped, but it is equipped with mechanized units, tanks, blah, blah, blah. So what he does is he sends the British across the border in skirmishes to hurt the Italians as best he can and show them that, yes, you can come at us, but we are going to hurt you really heavily. We're going to show you that we've got a bigger force than we actually do have. We're going to show you that we are better than you. We're going to show you that we can hurt you at any point and you can't do anything to us. And in fact, that's actually what happens. The Fort Capuzzo gets fallen several times. City Omar is taken. Fort Medellina. There's skirmishes all over the place. And in every single one of them, except for one, but in most of them, all but one, the British win every single engagement. And the one engagement they don't win is a night battle, and they lose a couple of guys. It's not very much. So the border skirmishes are a resounding success, and the Italian morale is dropping rapidly. Graziani is forced to invade Egypt in September, and what happens is he piles all his infantry together because, well, he's got no other choice, and he piles all of his tanks together into what's known as the Miletti Force, led by General Miletti. General Miletti invades basically in the south, and the throng. Now, I just want to explain this. The Italians are in several divisions, but they're a mass infantry force, and what ends up happening is they just kind of march across the desert in a huge column. There's a few tanks and a bit of a mechanized force at the front, but the rest of this column is just infantry, a pure massive infantry. And they are protected on the flanks by motorcyclists. And they're going really slow as well. Now, the British aren't stupid. They don't fight this huge throng of Italians. They're not going to do that. So the British actually pull back. The 7th Armoured Division isn't even here. It's actually Matru. And a small British force is engaging, trying to delay the Italians as best as possible. The Miletti group tries to outflank this small British force and gets lost in the desert. So Miletti is told by Graziani, no, can't do that. Graziani is forced to find the Miletti group with the Italian Air Force. That's how lost they were. So the Miletti group then comes back and pretty much is told, no, you've got to stick with us now. So as a result, the Miletti group and Graziani's 10th Army both march in. They take Solon, they take Buk, and they get to Sidi Barini. They take Sidi Barini, and then they stop. They stop. They literally reach this line, and that's it. That is the grand conquest of Egypt by the Italians. Why did they stop? Well, O'Connell wants to know why, because he's actually prepared the 7th Armoured Division at Matru. He's actually prepared a massive counterattack, and he's actually disappointed that the Italians don't get that far. He actually says that, I am disappointed that the Italians didn't get this far. But why didn't the Italians get that far? Because they run out of supplies. 150,000 men, you've got to feed them, you've got to clothe them, you've got to give them ammunition, you've got to give them fuel for their vehicles and tanks. You've got to supply them with water, because there's no water in a desert. And the road between Solomon and Sidi Barini isn't finished. So this massive Italian army just marches in and just isn't able to supply itself. So as a result, they stop here, and they make a bunch of forts here, and they dig in, and that's it. That was the grand conquest of Egypt. Now, to be fair, Graziani wasn't prepared. Some have suggested that Graziani should have used a smaller, mobile force, and he might have gotten further. That's true, but he wasn't prepared. He was thrown into the combat by Mussolini before he was prepared, and he was saying, I'm not prepared, we're not prepared for invasion, and Mussolini twisted his arm. Let's think of the casualties. So since June of 1940, all the way up to September, the Italians lose 3,500 men. The British lose 150. It's a disaster for the Italians. They've taken 60 miles. And yes, they've taken Sidi Barini, they've taken Solomon, they've taken Buk, but these are just small border towns. And the worst part is, Britain doesn't surrender. The Battle of Britain is over. Germany, Hitler, says, no, I'm not invading Britain now. They're not really a threat to us. We're looking to the east, Soviet Union. We're no longer going to invade Britain. So Mussolini wanted a quick victory before the British surrender, so he can annex as much land as possible, to give his country more bargaining chips at the conference table, as I said before. But unfortunately for him, the British don't surrender to the Germans, leaving him and his country in a war that Italy's simply not prepared for. The British quickly recover. I mean, 150 casualties. It's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. And end up with a smaller force. They have an extra division come along, but they basically with the 7th Armoured Division and the 4th Indian Division, they end up annihilating the Italians during Operation Compass, which you can watch. I've actually done a documentary on it, so links in the description. Ultimately, though, I mean, even though Graziani made mistakes and he could have done better with a smaller force of mobile units, like some historians have agreed, and he can't be blamed for the overall defeat. He could be blamed for not going a little bit further, he could be blamed for not having this mobile force, but he can't be blamed for this defeat fully. The army he had wasn't really an army, it was a militia force, a colonial unit force. It has no chance, other than the artillery guys, other than the Maletti group, it literally has no chance versus the British. It wasn't an army. And his arm was twisted by Mussolini. And Mussolini's strategic blundering around, taking bits of territory here or there, ended up being catastrophic for the Italians. And effectively, Mussolini should be blamed for this war. So why did Mussolini invade Egypt? So that he could take territory, give him better bargaining chips at the conference table. And he failed because the British weren't defeated by the Germans. He didn't want to defeat the British. He was going to piggyback off the success of the Germans, and because the Germans didn't defeat the British fully, his plan was doomed. That's why. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. A little bit of a history lesson. I want to do more of these, I think. Subscribe if you haven't done already, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.